Hey guys, I'm Ismail Sheikh. Today we are going to learn what are the top 10 mistakes that database engineers usually do. So before getting started, please subscribe to my channel. Let's learn. The first mistake that database engineers usually do is not to test their database backups. Database backup is the most important part and is the first line of defense. So if you are not checking or performing any tests on your database backup, then it will lead to a disaster. So you need to have dedicated team so that they can verify backups on a regular basis. Anything goes wrong and you will miss the data for sure. Also, you have to maintain the schedule of backup. Let's say if you are running these backups during the business hours, it will eventually lead to other performance issues. So we have to make sure that our backups are running during the off hours at the end of the day. Apart from that, we can use few simple queries like backup verify only or check some option so that you can validate if anything is wrong with your database or your backup. So this is a good technique that you can use while you're working with database backups. The second most common mistake that I've seen is not restricting the security access for the SQL Server instance. So if a support guys or let's say the system administrators or the developers are getting same access, then it will obviously lead to a disaster. So every access should be different, and these restrictions should be made for even highest privileged guys in the organization, and there should be a approval process so that if anyone is making any changes, there should be some kind of information sent out to the clients as well as the support staff so that they are aware of the maintenance activity or anything which is going to be changed in the environment. The third most common mistake that I've seen is not keeping up with the regular database maintenance. Now, there is a scheduled activity or scheduled maintenance which is done by the database team on a regular basis, but due to some failures, database guys don't address most important issues like checking the performance of the database for last 1 month or 2 months or last 3 months. If there is any changes made to the environment which has led to any failure or degradation of the performance, so there needs to be a regular database checkup, or they can run a report so that they can check what went wrong earlier and what needs to be done ahead. So this is the most common mistake, and this should be addressed on the priority every time there is a maintenance. Fourth most important thing that I've seen is not monitoring the server utilization. So database engineers fail to monitor the database or the server performance for a period of time as they have multiple tasks. But this is the very important thing that a database engineer needs to check. So they can use monitoring tools so that they can check the performance of the CPU or memory over a period of time. Let's say if there was any changes made in the environment and after that the server utilization increased or the memory percentage increased, and there were issues like blocking and locking due to that particular change. So this time the server utilization needs to be monitored. So this is the very important factor that database engineer needs to remember. The next thing is checking the indexes. So suppose if there are multiple unused indexes and these are just lying there and consuming our resources, this will eventually lead to performance issues and only slow down our application. So we have to check for unused resources which are in the database, or not only indexes, we have to check for the tables as well. That will improve the performance. And also what you can do is you can have a job schedule so that it can check if there are any unused indexes. There are a couple of queries which you can run to check if there is any needless index in your database or in your server. The next most important thing that I've seen that new database engineers usually don't have proper handbook or proper SOP in their hands, and they randomly try to make changes in the environment and do the troubleshooting as per their experience, which is not the correct part because every environment is different. So there needs to be some kind of SOP which needs to be in place. There needs to be some kind of change advisory board which has to take care of all these things, so that even if one change is made, everyone can be informed, and if there is any issue, there needs to be a proper stepwise resolution for that method, so that the environment is not harmed. The next most common mistake that I've seen is database engineers are more ignorant towards the job schedules and configuration. If there is any job scheduled or if there is any new job configured, they should check the schedules of that particular job, because if a job conflicts with any other job, then it will fail. Or let's say if a job is scheduled during the business hours, it will degrade the performance of the application, plus it will degrade the performance of the overall server. Now these checks should be done during the maintenance activity or any monthly patching activity, so that these mistakes are not repeated or not done. There should be a checklist whenever these jobs are scheduled, so that whenever they are scheduling a job, they should be checking if there's any other job which is scheduled for the same time as this one, or can we schedule this job during the business hours, because if we run this during the business hours, it will automatically consume more resource and it will lead to performance issues. So these checklists should be provided to the database engineers so that they can take care of such issues. The next mistake that I wanted to discuss is usually the page verification is disabled for a particular database. So what is page verification? Page verify is a database option which defines the SQL Server mechanism of verifying page consistency when the page is returned to the disk and when it is read again from the disk. So new SQL Server database have this default setting that checks for corruption by checking the checksum over a whole page and writes the value to the page header. Now this when the page is read into memory, it checks the checksum value again and compares the two numbers. If the two numbers do not match, then the page is corrupted and you will receive an error alert. So this is the very important setting that needs to be enabled instead of keeping it disabled. So database engineers should always catch this thing whenever they check the configuration of the database. The next most common mistake that I've seen, that lack of preventive maintenance from the database engineers. So preventive maintenance is nothing but monitoring the servers and catching the issue before it occurs. Also, we can ensure the optimal performance if we are scheduling a preventive maintenance activity monthly or quarterly, depending on the server utilization or the client activity. So this will be helpful for the server as well as the database as well as the overall performance of your application. So this is a very important factor that database engineers usually miss. So it will also help to check when to perform resource intensive operation, and when you can escalate or de-escalate the resources for your particular server. And at last, the most common mistake that I've seen is a lack of performance tuning for a database. So we should be dedicating at least 10% of time to performance tune your database or your server, because this is the most important and challenging part, as we have to enhance the performance of your database and your application. If we are not dedicating a set of time for this particular activity, then we will lag somewhere. So re-indexing, defragmenting and scheduling of jobs and automating most of your part will increase the performance, but most of the times this thing doesn't happen. And apart from this, we lack the performance management as well. So these factors should be considered whenever we are working with any database. Thank you for watching this video. If you like this video, please hit the like button, share this video with your friends, and if you have any queries, please post it in the comment section. We will surely try to answer your queries. And don't forget to subscribe and visit our channel. Let's Learn. The link is in the description. Thank you again.